All right, folks, here we go. Welcome back to another edition of LFG, your absolute favorite, unfiltered. What are we talking about? Oh, yeah, franchise education podcast. Oh, my goodness. So sometimes, we actually do rehearse for some of these podcasts, folks. So Leanne and I go on a little bit about what's going on and what happened recently. So we just had some fun inside conversation. So next time you see us, if you can remember to say, "Hey, so what was it that you guys just talked about?" I'm going to tell you a big secret. Yeah. Anyways, let's see if anyone actually calls us out on it.
There you go.
I am your host, Michael Hyam. And that is your host right there. Oh, you can't see her, I guess. For those of you that are not watching on YouTube, but if you are, Leanne Caruso. How's it going, Leanne?
Oh, it's well, at the time of the recording, we're heading into US Thanksgiving week. So, and it's a few days, week before Let's Grow Toronto. So, slightly losing my mind just a little bit.
What do you mean? You don't like three full conferences within 2 months? Like that's not possible? What's wrong with you?
That was the dumbest thing we ever did.
Wow. And here people think, Leanne this, Leanne that, miracle worker Leanne.
Everybody's like, how does she keep it so cool? She
For
doesn't.
sure. Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? It was fantastic. FML, for those of you that don't know, my friends, it stands for Franchise Marketing Live. And boy, oh boy, did we crush it. I mean, it might sound a little bit biased because it's our conference, but I got to tell you, and you know what it is? It not just that I think that it was wonderful and everything went off amazing and all the speakers were great and the content was fantastic, but it was really the feedback. And correct me if I'm wrong, all the people, and of course they're not going to lie to our faces. So on site they're like, "Oh, everything was great. This was good." But then we send out the survey, and it's like, "Hey guys, tell us a little bit about this, and what do you think about the speakers, and how was the food, and blah blah blah." Everyone came back with positive, like I can't even think of the word. Just amazing. Like I feel like on cloud nine. Leanne, how about you? What do you think? Am I wrong about that feedback?
No, it's been really good. I think the coolest thing, and being in it, it's kind of hard to really judge like how honest people are being, but the really cool thing is I'm getting feedback from other people who are like, I heard it was really good. So yeah, it was great. It was really good. We had some glitches with the space, but the content was good. The people were great. It was just a ton of more info than you could probably handle on the latest and greatest in marketing trends and what's happening, and some really great expert speakers, along with some franchisors who shared what's going on in their world. So it was great. And then it of course led right into the mastermind, the fall mastermind, which is just my favorite events of the year. I just love them so much.
So fun. Yes, it was great. Lots of laughs, lots of tears. It was a good time. And
Yeah. And the
for
weather
those
was
that
perfect.
and
It
the
was,
weather was perfect. I
it was here
mean,
in Tampa. Yeah.
how can you not like Florida in November? I mean, I talk as a northeasterner, but um, Florida in November is fantastic. And for those of you that don't know, I'll share a tiny little story with you. Yes, Leanne and I were both hit with, and actually with our venue. Leanne, because living in Tampa, was able to go to the venue and see the hall and see, oh yes, this will be perfect size for our event and accommodating and this and that. And then just a couple of weeks before the event, they hit us with, "Oh, by the way, you guys are double booked, and you're the one with the short end of the stick." I'm not sure why we got that, but they moved us into another room. It was a beautiful room, but quite a bit smaller. And when you're in the event business, you got to just roll with the punches. So we made it work.
Yeah. Made it
People.
work. Everybody was
Yes.
kind about it. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It
So
wasn't the best. Beautiful room though. Great,
yeah.
beautiful hotel.
Definitely could have been a little bit roomier for sure,
Yeah,
like for us and the amount of people we had.
tight
But
squeeze for everybody.
we had to switch it from round tables to theater style seating and such. But It was great.
Oh,
It was
good.
really, really good. And then we utilized the round tables upstairs and all that stuff. Anyways, let's get to it. Today, look at this. Who do we have on? Megan Center. Well, can I
Woo-woo.
say good friend and longtime franchise buddy and fellow oh shoot, here I am. I'm gonna make another lie. I mean, I don't mean another lie. I don't lie. I was gonna say and fellow Swifty as if I'm a Swifty, but
I
I'm
was
not.
gonna say, what are you talking about? I can say fellow Swifty.
I know. Oh my gosh. But come on, good on me that I remember
That is
that you
good on
guys
you.
are crazy Swifty people.
Yeah, she's one of the crazy ones. We love
I
her.
remember all those stories, with anyways, yes, Megan Center. For those of you that don't know Megan, Leanne, take it away. Where's Megan from? Who does she work for? And what does she do?
Yeah, so Megan's recently transitioned over to Faegre Drinker. I believe that's how you pronounce it. So she's counsel over there. So it's a new role for her and very, very excited for her in this new position. And she's going to tell us all of the things. We've got a lot of conversation about PE and exiting and all of that jazz. So for those of you who are interested in getting an hour of free legal advice, just hang tight and Megan will be right on.
Uh, hey, who doesn't like free legal advice? I mean, come on.
And she'll
Um,
probably quote a few Swifty Taylor Swift songs.
oh, good, good. So is she paying us to be on this, or are we paying her to be on this podcast?
I think we're gonna do a some sort of a trade, but I don't think that's allowed either.
I joke. We don't charge, and neither does Megan. Okay, so hey, before we get to Megan, before we get to our franchise royals, this segment is sponsored by Franchise Assembly, a franchise event company, bringing resources and education to franchise brands and people. And for those of you that don't know Franchise Assembly, another selfless plug. Leanne mentioned we do have Let's Grow coming up in Toronto, literally in a week. And then we have Let's Grow Dallas, our flagship event coming up in January. I cannot wait. It is the buildup is fantastic. Visit franchiseassembly.com if you want more. And if you haven't registered, you are crazy. But let's get to it. Our franchise royals, Leanne, who is your franchise royal this week?
My franchise royal is Vern Gonsalves, all S's, no Z's. He's our friend over at Mad Science. He's a friend of Guy. But Vern is going to be our MC in Toronto, and we had this crazy idea to have an MC in the at the Toronto event, and we called him, and he was like, "No, no, no, I can't," because he had a conflict. And then he called, and we're like, "Okay, fine, we won't do an MC if we don't have Vern, because we just wanted Vern." And he came back to us in a couple days later, and he was like, "Well, I'll do it." He's going to bring so much personality and such a good energy to that event. I'm super, super excited. So thank you, Vern, for jumping in and making it happen. And I cannot wait to report back on what Vern does to our event. It's gonna
So
be fun.
fun.
Yeah. Who is your
Great.
franchise royal, Michael?
Wow. Thanks for asking, Leanne. Uh, my franchise royal, and this is a fun one. Julie, I've known you for years now, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Sure, it could be pronounced a couple ways, but Julie is a part of the organization Sticky Fingers. For those of you that don't know Sticky Fingers Cooking, Julie sent me over an email this week, and I have to share a little bit about you. Why she is a royal, not only because she is closing deals. Sticky Fingers is an emerging brand. I believe they started off with no locations, or maybe one or two, before they came on to the national franchise show. And Julie sent me an amazing email that I just have to share with all of you. In her lifetime exhibition of national franchise shows, she has exhibited at three events with us. The first one was in San Diego in 2003, and then she exhibited in Dallas in 2024. And then she exhibited, that was at the beginning of the year, and then she exhibited in Los Angeles at the tail end of the year in 2024. And then she exhibited in none in 2025. But being smart and wanting to ensure that her franchisees succeed, she closed 4 deals from 3 shows. And Julie, you deserve an amazing hoorah for that. 1 deal per show, except for San Diego, where she sold 2 territories, and the LA one was just recent. So you know how it is. You work that sales funnel, a year later, it came back. And it's a testament to, and this is where I wanted to go with this, that when you work your booth properly, you will do great. I can't tell you how many people I see working behind their laptop and watching hundreds of people walk by. Well, you're never going to sell anything like that. But when you are engaging, and I've talked about this 1,000 times, you're standing up and you look approachable and you're happy and you're collecting leads and then you're following up with them, you're going to close deals. Just like anything, any marketing tool, nothing is a silver bullet. But I love it because 3 shows, 4 deals. Julie, congratulations. What do you think about
Hey.
that, Leanne?
I think that's pretty awesome. You shared that with me when you got that. I think that's what a good testament to these shows. It's great. Great job, Julie and Vern.
There you go, guys. Congrats. You are franchise royals. Okay, so before we head out to our show and tell segment, please take a moment to learn about our podcast sponsor, Subtle Strauss.
Franchisors love Subtle Strauss because we protect their brand standard across all marketing channels. Z's love our marketing platform because they can customize, print, download, and mail brand right collateral for their local market in minutes. Want to see how it works? Connect with me, Karen Wenning, on LinkedIn.
Okay, and we are back to the show. This is a show and tell segment where we have an industry leader, an expert, someone who shares insights and ideas on what's going on in their segment of the industry. And again, boy, oh boy, do we have one of our absolute favorites. I can't speak. No, I haven't started drinking. Megan Center, Council of Faegre Drinker. Megan, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us, give us the tea.
Oh, the tea. I
Start
have
with the
no
T.
tea. I cannot spill the tea. I am under an obligation to retain the confidentiality of the tea. That's the problem.
Boo.
I'm just kidding. Thank you both for having me today. I'm so excited. I adore both of you. So thank you again. A little bit about me. So I've been in the industry for 14 years now. Started my franchise practice at a franchise boutique firm, been doing it ever since, and have absolutely fallen in love with this industry, the people in it, the work. I did not know it existed when I was in law school, and now I just can't imagine my life without it. I primarily focus on the franchisor side. So I do the regulatory work that's associated with offering and selling a franchise, in addition to representing all of the brands in connection with the day-to-day issues that they face with respect to running a franchise system. Anything from termination and releases to rollouts of new programs and technology. And on the other side of my life, I work in the M&A space, both in the franchise world and in the general sense. So I get a lot of good experience melding those two areas together, because as we all know, that those two worlds have collided so much over the last decade, with private equity getting involved in the franchise space so heavily. And I know we're going to talk about a lot today, so I want to get started as much as we can on all of those fun things.
You know what this is like? Have you seen that Instagram reel where it's like, or the meme where it's like you have your really good friends that you've known forever and you know them like one side of you, and then you see them at work or you hear them on the phone talking at work and you're like, wait a second, how is this the same person?
Who
Wait,
is
is this a meme that you have sent me, or a reel that you have sent me at some point
Probably.
on Instagram?
Probably at some point.
100%.
But
It is the
anyway,
same
you
thing.
sound so smart. I love this.
I
I
am so
love this
smart.
for us. You are so smart. Well, I'm super excited for you and your new position at Faegre Drinker.
Thank you.
They're so very lucky to have you, and we are lucky to have you on this podcast. We already told everybody that they get a free hour of legal advice, so
You can't beat it. You
I
can't
know.
beat it.
Very exciting. So we're gonna go big right from the very beginning. Let's talk about that word semi-absentee, which is like, ouch, that word. So what are some legal missteps that brands make when they pitch semi-absentee as a business model?
Very good question. So I think that with the involvement of more bigger franchisees that want this kind of semi-absentee model, I think sometimes it's marketed as a semi-absentee model without it actually being fully developed. And then without the franchisor implementing the proper mechanisms around what it means to operate that type of model versus the standard singular franchise business model. So when it comes to that, the franchisor has to understand and implement processes to ensure that it's still running in accordance with brand standards. So in addition to having just a manager at the unit level, there's usually a step above that. So some kind of principal, maybe it's a partial owner, doesn't necessarily have to be an owner, but it has to be someone that has the authority to speak on behalf of the franchisee. Having that GM alone just is not going to get the job done. And when it comes to the franchisor talking about what this model is, making sure that the franchisor actually knows what that means. And if it's a passive investor that's just putting in capital, really allowing them to be not involved in the day-to-day operations. And then as that semi-absentee model or that owner continues to grow, typically what these owners like to do is be multi-unit, multi-brand owners. So making sure that the model is set up to allow them to own multiple brands, own multiple units, but also making sure that they don't own competitive units. Oftentimes, particularly when private equity is coming in to purchase a franchisee, which is something I've learned about a lot as it continues to grow, is making sure that those investors are also restricted in what they can own, particularly when it comes to an investor maybe that is more involved on the day-to-day and then gets some of the information about how the operations are run, making sure that that person does not own a competing business. And if they do, what are those structures you need to put in place to make sure that your information is still protected?
Yeah, and as a little follow-up question, and you don't have to answer this, but with your experience in the industry, do you find that there is a better industry in franchising that works with the semi-absentee model? Is there a specific niche industry that you said, well, these guys are the best at semi-absentee, or no such thing?
I think it can be applicable if done right everywhere, but I think anything that doesn't really have a brick and mortar is kind of the easiest expansion wise and absentee wise because there's not something to be overseen kind of on a day-to-day basis. I think it's a lot easier to monitor, a lot easier to have a principal that doesn't have to show up every single day. So when it comes to service-based, I think that that's ripe for it. But then again, it does work for a brick and mortar model. It just depends on making sure the franchisor knows what it's getting into and has those mechanisms in place to make sure that someone is there operating and is there to oversee.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So, all right, well, talk
I
to me
feel like,
about.
hold on, I feel like I feel like it's kind of become a dirty word in franchising, but maybe it's because people have made it a bad because they're falsely advertising an opportunity
Mhm.
that isn't really semi-absentee.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people, when they just want to put in capital to a business, that's what they want. They want an absentee model where they don't have to show up. So oftentimes what a franchisor poses or proposes or pitches as a semi-absentee model isn't fully developed yet. So they may say, and they may be hearing advice from consultants and other people within the space that this is a good model and a good way to pitch multi-unit folks that want to add this to their portfolio. But they may not have those procedures in place to actually run the absentee model. So then the franchisor gets disgruntled and doesn't understand why there isn't the owner operator there on a day-to-day basis, isn't able to answer the questions about why the business isn't operating in accordance with the standards, because they haven't implemented a principal, a GM, and everything that has been approved by the franchisor, and they haven't built it out yet. So they know that they want to because they want to make it marketable to more people, but they haven't done the legwork to make it a workable model yet. So the franchisee gets upset that this isn't actually an absentee model, and then that's kind of where the conflict arises. Yeah. So I think that it's gotten a bad name in that sense there, but I don't think it should. I think it could work.
Right. Still possible.
If done the right way.
Right. There's people who are just using it as a selling, like a marketing tool, but it's not really in some cases.
Correct. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And I think the thought behind semi-absentee is really absentee, when most people think that, that's what they're really looking for, right? So
right. And there can be that model. I mean, I think that having someone that's majority invested and owning the franchise business to be completely absent is a little bit more difficult just based on how franchise businesses operate. However, when we're looking at private equity getting involved in all of these things, the top level passive investors, they're all absentee, full absentee. Oftentimes, the brands that I'm working with, we don't even know some of who the passive investors are because they're doing any number of things and they've literally just put in the capital to run these businesses. So I think there's a difference, like you said, between the absentee model and a semi-absentee model, which I think is usable on a smaller scale when it comes to that.
And so, speaking about growth, what would you say from the FDD perspective? What needs to be tightened or reframed to truly support multi-unit growth?
Absolutely. So I think first and foremost, you have to look at what your competitors are doing. It's always a good place to start. Look at the fees, look at the mechanisms that your competitors are using in order to entice those multi-unit investors, which it seems that brands just continually want to connect with and sell a franchise to, those multi-packs. And then comparing it to what your offering looks like, making sure that it's competitive within the space. But then I think focusing on the economics, item 19, focusing on multi-unit owners in the FPR itself, putting together a full FPR that demonstrates multi-unit operators instead of just the singular franchise business model. I think that that's a gap in what a lot of people don't necessarily focus on. Now, it's important to make sure that that's not misleading in the context of the rest of the financial performance representation that you're putting together. But we all know that multi-unit owners are really focused on the numbers and how those numbers are going to be usable and scalable. So it's important to demonstrate that that is the case at that level. And then I think making it more palatable to even private equity potentials, even from the get-go. So a lot of the terms that are very familiar and common within the franchise space, think personal guarantees, non-competes, things of that nature, are foreign to private equity. So making sure that you're at least in the back of your mind considering how those terms and what that's going to look like in the event that there's a multi-unit franchisee, private equity backed, that wants to come and buy units. I think it's important to make sure that you have systems in place and maybe even an addendum or an idea of terms, but also working with counsel that has a familiarity with how private equity works is incredibly important to making it more sellable. So I think there's a couple different things that you can do. Even I think as simple as giving royalty rebates or anything like that when it comes to people that are buying multiple models and then maybe even doing well and opening on time, but then also making sure that those development timelines are not so aggressive to completely not be attainable, and then not to be able to be supported by the franchisor. So oftentimes when I talk with emerging brands, they're so excited to get started and they want to sell 50 in the first year. And I say, but who's going to support the opening of all of those? Who's going to work with you to do these things? Because oftentimes we know emerging brands have a very small setup in the beginning. And you want to be sure that you're setting up your franchisees for success from the beginning by having those operational structures in place from the get-go.
You're so smart. So for founders who want private equity interest in like 2 or 3 years, because I feel like that's really big right now, in
Mhm.
especially in franchising, what should they be putting in place now? I know you kind of mentioned a couple things, but what should they be putting in place now, um, to get ready, to get prepared for that kind of exit?
Absolutely. So compliance begins right from the get-go. I push it on my clients immediately that as soon as they start, that is when they need to ensure that they are properly tracking all of the documentation that's needed to make a successful system. That includes tracking all of your FDD receipts, all of your franchise agreements, all of the exhibits to the franchise agreement that aren't necessarily signed at the execution, making sure all those are signed and in one little cute little folder for everyone to be able to look at and refer back to. Having clean financials from the beginning. All of my brands that I work with from the get-go, as soon as we start a new entity for the franchisor arm of things. This is also a really good opportunity to look at what other entities you have in place at that start and determine whether other items need to be put into different entities. So think that if you want to create a new organizational structure with a holding company at the top, potentially, where all of the founders own that holding company, and then there's a franchise arm, there could be an IP arm where all of the IP is held. And then in the event that the franchisor is supplying certain items, that could be a different supply co. And then separately is going to be the operating company that's going to operate the corporate owned units. So by doing that, you do a couple of things. You separate out the liabilities of each of them. So in the event that there's an issue with one of the operating companies, that does not in turn affect the franchise arm, the IP arm, or anything else within the larger ecosystem kind of that you're creating with this brand. And then properly keeping everything separate from the get-go. So the financials of one are staying in the financials of one and not intermingling funds. Obviously, in the beginning, when when the franchisor arm is created, there's going to be expenses that are paid for by other entities. Properly documenting notes between them or loans between them or anything else is going to be really important from the beginning. Because I think one thing franchisors maybe don't understand if they're not in this space is how much any buyer is going to look at literally every piece of paper that they have ever signed. The extensive diligence list that you are going to get from a potential buyer is extensive. It's every legal document, every corporate document, every financial statement, everything that you have had, particularly if you've only been doing this for under 5 years, which we've been seeing more and more, is that private equity is starting to buy sooner and sooner into these brands because the multiples of brands that are bigger are just massive. So a lot of private equity buyers are trying to get in earlier and start it then. So making sure that you're compliant documentation wise right from the get-go is incredibly important.
Yeah, and so from the reverse of that, I guess that's a little bit of the answer. But what are the biggest surprises or deal killers that founders encounter with a PE?
Yeah, so I think it's a lot of what the opposite is of that. That there's not a consistent, no consistent tracking for when the agreements are signed. No consistency in operational compliance and enforcement of brand standards. No clean financials, whether it's personal things that end up in there or, lots of sorts of things that founders tend to do in the beginning. Not having proper attorneys. I can tell you that a lot of the buyers that we represent, one of the first things that they ask us is our opinion of what counsel that they're using, whether it's counsel for the sale of the business or counsel when it comes to the franchise side of things. The franchise bar is very small, and a lot of us know each other and speak very well and highly of each other. So we all know the good ones. And I will always tell a seller and be able to kind of taper and change my diligence based on if I know the attorney that they are working with. So proper counsel from the beginning is incredibly important. And I think a lot of PE firms are looking at unit level economics as well. So this ties directly back into discussions on what financial performance data you're putting together. So it's obviously much different what you can give to a potential buyer of the franchisor versus what you're giving to a prospect of a single unit. But it's important that the private equity buyer is still going to look at the track record of how well the franchisees are doing. They want to see consistency. They want to see growth. They want to see the scalability. So they're also going to look at what white space is still available. And if you don't have a lot of white space left, if you in the beginning sold whole state deals, multi-state deals, and people are not developing within the timelines that they were supposed to, I think you're going to be surprised as to the issues that private equity is going to have with that, or buyers are going to have with that. And then, yeah, a lot of the opposite of what I just said, making sure that you're enforcing the franchise agreement. A lot of systems in the beginning want to give their franchisees a little bit more discretion to operate, but then also to kind of help them develop how the franchise system is going to continue to grow and operate. But at the core of it, we need to be sure that it's still in accordance with those brand standards that you've put together. It's protecting the IP, which is one of the most important components of what a franchise system is and what private equity is going to buy.
So we're seeing more PE firms investing in multi-unit franchisee groups.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes those groups investable?
So it's several different things. We see it a lot. We've seen it everywhere, frankly. But I've seen it a lot in the service space because those are inherently a little bit easier and quicker to scale because you don't need to go through the process of a build out. So I've seen that. And I think it's an investable concept because it comes with not the full backing. I don't want to say full backing, but it comes with established IP, which is palatable and investable. What I found that private equity likes to do is when they get in with a system, they like to see what white space is still available, because what private equity wants to do is they similarly want to continue to scale. So they want to be able to buy, a 5-pack of already operating units, but they also want the right to continue to expand. So I've seen private equity companies and buyers ask for first rights of refusal for any of the resales within a system. I'm not saying that I've granted any of these or what I have done, but these are all asks that I've seen. First, development rights for multiple states. And then what I've also seen on the franchisor side of things to kind of backstop against it is there have been hard limits on percentage of the system that you can buy. Because oftentimes we don't want the inmates running the asylum, for lack of a better way to put it. So it's important from the franchisor side to think about these things. Like, how much of your system are you going to allow one company to own? And sometimes with these private equity buyers, I think when it comes to emerging brands, they almost like that the sophistication and negotiating power is flipped on its head. So I think oftentimes private equity buyers can come in and be much larger than the franchisor even. So that's a consideration to keep in mind. I know some brands that full stop say private equity is not allowed to invest in our franchisees. That's a choice, and there's different reasons for making that choice. But I think that with the growth of that model, I think multi-unit franchisees that eventually want an exit in that way, I think it's more palatable to them in that offering if you'll at least consider it and work through the issues. But I think that there's a lot of those reasons. They like the scalability of it. They like the ability to buy more. So there's a lot of different reasons why private equity has started on the franchisee side. And maybe because all of the franchisors are already owned by private equity.
Right.
There's only so much that they can buy. So I think it's becoming a lot more of it.
That's so interesting, because so they could kind of like infiltrate from the other side.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's wild.
Yeah, because then, they get on the FACs, they get on the boards,
Right.
and they get other franchisees on their side. And it's just, if it's a well-run system, it's probably not an issue,
Right.
but they can exert a lot of control if they are owning a lot of the franchise system and they get a lot of direction on where it goes. And it's really interesting because obviously private equity is not going to sign a personal guarantee. Non-competes are kind of an issue, but I've also worked with brands that have said, okay, this non-compete is applicable to the direct franchise business. But if we see you going out and investing in companies that are kind of like in the same space or in the same space of another brand that we own, we are not going to sell you more. Like it's not a non-compete, but we're just not going to allow it to happen anymore. And it's really interesting to see private equity take a step back and say, whoa, 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 whoa. But we want to continue to grow. We want to continue to do all these things and turn and burn in, 3 to 5 years. So a lot of them come in and ask for kinds of a lot of things that franchisors just are not used to dealing with. So it's been a really interesting learning experience as we continue to navigate this.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's fun. It makes my job fun because every day is different now because of this. I
Yeah.
know, super nerdy about this, but I honestly do love it. It's so exciting.
Yeah. I can tell you love it.
And so does it impact like the franchisor strategy, compliance when PE money gets involved? Like, does it change the long-term health of the system?
So I think it can change it for the better if depending upon the private equity buyer. Um, and I think oftentimes private equity buyers, they're either buying a management team that's already in place and they don't want to have to manage the day-to-days, the day-to-day ops, or they are coming in and replacing with their own management team. This is similar to whether it's a franchise business or not a franchise business. So I think that if you partner with good private equity backed folks or private equity firms, I think it can really help scale your system. I think it can be a very good thing. But if you partner with the wrong ones, it can also redirect the kind of the trajectory of your franchise system. If it's a private equity fund that ends up going defunct for some reason or isn't able to open all of this, because they can fail as a franchisee just as a single unit owner can. They can fail to comply with development schedules. They can not comply with operational standards, whether it's because their management team comes in and doesn't know, or they're not overseeing their own management team. So I think the mechanisms to monitor the performance they can't be lessened just because it's a big multi-unit owner. I think those mechanisms to oversee all of those units still needs to be the same. So I think it can, but I think franchisors need to go in eyes wide open as to what they have to do.
Wow. Is there any other things that you want to cover in terms of legal? Like, what's the number one question you get as a
Oh
franchise
gosh.
attorney?
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I know that answer. Um,
I feel like people just must ask you questions all the time.
100%, like
Right,
every kind of question. It's hard to say
right.
one singular question I get. I was actually talking to some investor friends the other day as to why the franchise model works and why expand via franchising versus corporate owned units. And I thought it was really interesting
Great
at
question.
a really basic level. And you two can speak
Yeah.
to this too, as to why it's a good model for expansion. Because I think at the base level, you eliminate a lot of the capital requirements to open corporate locations. You eliminate a lot of the risk and liability at the operational level. But I was sitting there trying to think if they have access to capital and they are able to do these things, does franchising make sense? Because I think we can say franchising does not make sense for everyone by
No,
any means. But I'd
right.
love to turn that question to you two.
Oh, this isn't about us.
Come on, I just want to hear your answer.
No, I think you're very right. I don't think it makes sense for everyone. I do think that I've come across people who want to franchise that I've actually encouraged, like you should just open up another couple locations.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be better for their specific situation.
Sure.
Um, but I do think it makes sense for a lot of brands. I
I
mean,
agree.
ones that could scale quickly, home service, those kinds of things. I think they're needed. And if you have, but I do believe that you have to be ready to franchise. If you're not
Yes.
ready to franchise and you don't have the capital to do it, just like you might not have the capital to own another location, then I don't think you're ready. And so I just think that if you're ready, you have the capital, you understand what's involved, the investment, time, energy, resources, all of those things, then yes, franchising is a beautiful model
It
for
is.
everybody, for everybody.
Absolutely agree. What
But
what do you think, Michael? I want to hear your
Uh,
opinion too.
Honestly, I think it comes down to mostly scale, right? So it
Mhm.
just what does that person want? I mean, even if you do have the capital, do you want to invest your own money? And do you want that kind of growth, right?
Yeah.
The franchising, the momentum and the growth can be, 10x on everything else. So I think it's more on, the a little bit of the risk factor, but also just I want to grow and let's go, as opposed
Yeah.
to opening my own location and opening another one. It's going to take. I mean, unless we're talking about endless capital, and then you can go. But
Right.
within reason, I think most need to do things a certain way that are only going to allow a certain amount of things to operate. And we even see it in franchising, right? When you scale too fast and you open too much, it's great and you have all these deals, but sometimes you can't find locations, or now all of a sudden your operations are lacking and your franchisees are
Mhm.
suffering, and because they want to go. So even in that model itself, opening too fast doesn't work, right? So the same thing with, even if you have the capital,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. So I have
I
to
think it's
say,
more on that side.
circling back on the question, actually, I think one of the biggest questions I get is what does it take to operate a franchise system? What does it take to start
mm,
a franchise system? Is probably one of the baseline level questions that I get all the time. And legally, it's completely separate. You have to put together all of these documents and set up entity and stuff. But I think even more important is the operational side of things. And that you're not just allowing someone to license your name and then they are just off to the races. There is so much more that comes into supporting a franchise system that I think a lot of people discredit. So I think I get that question a lot, just legally speaking, and I can speak to all of the legal requirements, but I also always highlight the operational side of things because that's just as, if not more important, to make sure, like Michael, like you said, that you're able to open all these units and that you're able to support all of these units. Because at the end of the day, as we're talking about, that's what private equity is going to look at. Are you able to open your units? Are you able to support them? Are they closing? What is the turnover rate? All of these different things.
Yeah, it's funny. I was sitting on a Zoom call yesterday with a friend of mine who is starting to franchise his business, and we were talking about all this stuff, and especially when they're budding entrepreneurs, and the world is their playing field, and he's like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and da da da, and we're literally on a Zoom call with I franchise your business type company, and so I have a little question for you too. But one of the funny things was that this company, which is a good company, I'm going to leave all the names out, and them, and so, but they have their lawyer that they deal with, and so this is not the question you think I'm going to ask. What I want to know is, by law, are law firms able to take a kickback? Because the guy that's franchising the business, he is then putting it on because you're going to do all the registration and all that stuff, and so it was just dawned on me. I was like, so I wonder if, obviously,
No, lawyers can't take any
no
kickbacks or
kickback.
anything.
I know
No,
you thought I was going to ask something else, but
I did. I was like, I have no idea where this question's going. Believe me, I have been offered it multiple times, but no, we
yeah,
can't take any kind of kickbacks. I mean, the one benefit of being in-house counsel for a system or a brand is that you can get equity in the company, and then that kind of acts as a kickback if the franchisor is able to eventually sell. But otherwise, we cannot, unfortunately. Those ethics rules will bog us down, unfortunately.
darn ethics.
oh, for sure.
All
But
right,
hey,
I just have
listen, you have a great lawyer that works really hard, and obviously you want to continue to utilize their
I
service,
mean,
right?
just
And they do well.
yeah, I mean, what I take from that is that what I hope I instill in my clients is that they will continue to trust me and come back to me with more work and similarly refer me to whoever else might ask them for a good attorney. That's the biggest kickback that I can take, and I will gladly take it any day of the week.
Love it.
All right, I have two more questions to ask you.
Please.
How do you feel about the new Taylor Swift album?
I love it. I was waiting for this. I was waiting.
I knew. I just wanted you to shine. Like,
It is literally on my record player right now, and I will play it as soon as because I just love listening to it in the house.
what's your favorite
It's
song on
not
there?
it's not my favorite album. I
No?
don't even know if I have a favorite album, but
Yeah.
there are some really good bops. I think it's unique in the lyrics. And I think she's I know I'm gonna call out Amy Perkins right now because I'm gonna send her this and she is gonna be furious. She writes lyrics so well that I just love her storytelling ability. So I think it still has a lot of those aspects. I listen to it all the time, just like I listen to all of her other music. It's not my favorite, but I still really enjoy it, and I love all the bops.
What's your favorite song
Oh,
on that album?
Wood,
Would, yes.
or Father Figure, because I
Okay.
feel as though Father Figure is me, and I love like just
Yeah.
belting it out and thinking about all those people that I am showing up that have tried to hold me down. I'm like, not today,
Yeah.
not
Love it.
today.
What's your
What do you
favorite
think of
all
it?
time? What do I think of it?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's
Yeah.
not my favorite either, but I love it.
Yeah.
I don't like all the negativity that my daughter doesn't like it.
Anyone's gonna give her negativity, and I just don't.
I
I
know.
don't anymore.
I know. Last question. What's your all-time favorite Taylor Swift song?
It's just one song.
Yes.
Once I feel as though we've talked about this before, and
We have.
the same one.
We have a
It's all
text
too well
thread.
10-minute version.
Yes. Thank you.
All day, every day.
Correct
All day, every
answer.
day. That last year was one of my most played songs, despite the fact that it is 10 minutes long.
Right.
Like I could listen to that on repeat and just yell it. Michael, what's your favorite song? Your favorite Taylor Swift song? You have to know a Taylor Swift song you like.
I do. Romeo and Juliet.
That's love
That
story.
is not, huh?
Love story, right?
Yeah.
Oh, love story.
Yeah, of course.
But it's not called that.
Sir.
For those that know, Leanne.
No. Romeo and Juliet is a Dire Straits song, also Indigo Girls.
Dire Straits. What's that?
Oh my God. All right.
If people, apparently, next podcast we could just talk about music.
Right.
And Michael's need to listen
Right.
to more music.
Because the other big question is Wicked 2 comes out today. When are you going to go see it?
I am seeing it tonight with my daughter, her friend, and her mom, because I don't think my son, you know my son, will sit through 2.5 hours of it. I think he'll sit through it at home, but I don't think he'll sit through it there. And I do not want to be distracted. I have purposefully not listened to any of the music. I am pumped. I cannot wait. We watched the movie, the first one last night, and I started crying again. So I anticipate tears. I'm so excited. When are you going to see it?
Tomorrow night. And I heard For Good this morning and I started crying in the car.
I'm going to cry so hard. I don't even know what I'm going to do about it.
So good.
Dude,
all right.
so
if
good.
people want to talk Swiftie, if they want to talk musicals, or if they want to talk law, how do they find you? Because we're still recording.
I know. LinkedIn, you can find me, Megan B Center. You can send me an email. I'm on our firm's website, Megan Bender Center, bringing back the maiden name because it's a great maiden name. But yeah, all those things. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's a lot of Swiftiness.
A lot of Taylor.
Feel free to join. But thank you guys so much. This is so lovely. It went by so fast.
Yes.
I adore you both. I cannot wait to see you again.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And I'm so happy for you and your new job. And can't wait to see all of the good things that come from that.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
This was wonderful. Megan, thank you very much. And we will absolutely have you on again soon. For those of you that are going to continue on, we've got Franchise Mingle up next. Megan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, wow. Megan, we love you. You are amazing. And thank you so much for coming on. What a wealth of information that was. Our final segment of the podcast, as per usual, Franchise Mingle. One day we're going to have franchisemingle.com running and going. But for now, what we've got is the upcoming events which are for 2026. Okay, we're going to start with, as I said this earlier in the podcast, our flagship conference is Let's Grow Franchise Sales and Development, happening in Dallas, Fort Worth, running from January 27th through to the 30th. And why is it through to the 30th? Because we've got 2.5 days of conference, and then we even have an add-on. For those of you that don't know, CGI franchise, Art Coley is hosting an additional C-level masterclass. Okay, you shouldn't miss it. It is fantastic. A solid 4 to 5 hours of dissection. Okay, check it out on franchiseassembly.com. But we've got the conference, then we've got Art, and then we roll into the Dallas Franchise Show back to back to back. And that happens from January the 27th through to the 30th, and then the franchise show 31st to February 1st. But yes, as far as the franchise show, we've got New York, New Jersey, Dallas, Cleveland, Houston, Chicago, Orlando, New England. We previously had Washington, Virginia, but our Washington, Virginia hall in Dulles has closed down and now turned into an IKEA. So for those of you that know the Dulles Expo Center, it no longer exists. And so we had to pivot. It's not exactly in the Dulles, in the Washington, D.C., Virginia area, but it's in the Washington, Baltimore area. So we're going to the Baltimore Convention Center now. And it's happening on the same weekend, and May 16th and 17th. And then we've got Portland. And that rounds out our franchise show events for the spring. Any other events that I'm missing, Leanne?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right.
Sure oh, well, I mean, obviously IFA in February.
What's that?
The big,
IFA.
the big one.
Oh.
All
I
right.
don't care. I'm kidding. I have a booth at IFA.
We'll be there.
Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to actually network when there's 4,000 people. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I kind of like.
We'll be there though.
Of course, we'll be there. We support IFA. We're IFA members. We love you, IFA. All right. Well, this episode is brought to you by Subtle Strauss Franchise Assembly and the National Franchise Show. If you stuck around this long, thank you very much. We love you. And we'll catch you in a couple of weeks.
Bye.
Say bye, Leanne.
Bye. Bye, Leanne.